This series is sponsored by our friends at Wild Health, leaders of personalized, genetics-based precision medicine.
The way we take care of ourselves is ever evolving. And what we know for sure is that our mind and spirit are linked to our physical body, and that our wellness seems to extend into our communities and the planet we all share. It is very, very clear that wellness is interconnected. We love spending time with you to explore and practice the breakthroughs, the insights, and the passions of incredible people helping us all see the world in a whole new light. This is Health Gig. Today's guest is part of our Wild Health series, and it is with Drew Canole, who is the founder of Organifi. And today's conversation was incredible and a surprise to us, so we hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Drew.
Hey, thanks for having me, you two. I appreciate it.
We've just been huge fans of all that you do, so it's just a thrill to have you join us. And we love the website when you say you have permission. You've granted us permission to take better care of ourselves, so we really can't wait to dig into that too today.
So let's begin, Drew. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners.
Oh gosh, such a loaded question, right? Like, where do we begin? The origin story of Drew.
Exactly.
I'll take you all the way back.
Yes,
good.
As a child, I was born into an abusive home, tortured as a kid, gave me a lot of resilience as a kid and a lot of mom and dad issues like most people have, right? So I've spent my whole life really deconstructing and figuring out what makes humans work and how to heal some of the trauma that I had. I've done everything from EMDR to TRE to self-hypnosis to NLP to everything that you could throw at this. Big spiritual practice as well, connecting to spirit. And through it all, I've healed a lot of my trauma. I don't think I've gotten rid of it completely. I don't think we ever do. But I've turned it into rocket fuel. And what that means is I've been super motivated in my life to help people manage and heal not only their trauma, but also other aspects of their entire being. Started Fit Life TV, my true passion 13 years ago after running a bunch of credit and debt settlement companies and a mortgage company right out of college. I've only worked for somebody else for about 90 days in my whole life. So always been an entrepreneur. Started Fit Life TV 13 years ago, educating people about health. And that's been my calling, to truly be just a teacher, a guide on the side, not a guru, somebody to truly support and help. And then we launched Organifi 9 years ago, which is the first Ayurvedic adaptogen Chinese mushroom infused green juice with our Organifi green juice. This was 9 years ago, before there was all these influencers all over the place. And now we have a bunch of different products that have helped millions of people all over the world. And I'm just excited to be impacting people every day.
And you really are impacting people every single day. And Doro and I are one of them or two of them. With your background that you just shared with us, what were some of the positive things that happened to you? I mean, how did you get yourself on this track?
I think the ego, as a man's ego, we really want to protect ourselves. Because I didn't have love as a child, I wanted the world to love me. So I think recording videos was a way of saying, hey, the more attention I get, the more love I was feeling and seeking, right? Which is a double-edged sword, can be a bad thing too. But I healed a lot of the trauma, and I realized that the only attention I was truly seeking was the attention from within. So I started to work with the healer within myself and asking what it wanted, how to hold the hand of this little boy that was tortured and had all this trauma. So throughout my life, I've had a lot of teachers and mentors come in. I've worked with Toltecs for a while. My shaman, the Don, who works in Dreamtime, he was one of Don Juan's apprentices, the only apprentice of Don Juan. So a lot of books Carlos Castaneda wrote in the 70s. I've been working with him for about 15, 16 years. So that's been super powerful. So dream work, night school, going to bed, telling your unconscious what gaps you have in your life, and then waking up healed or waking up with knowledge that you didn't have before. And then coming out of that, which has been so key in my life of figuring out what to do next, who to help, traveling to people that need help, and then having them wake up and say, hey, you were in my dream last night. All the while being like, yeah, this is the whole reality that we live in that we think is so real is we're only seeing about 1% or less of the light spectrum. So there's a lot more going on than what we can imagine.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the dream work?
Yeah, it's simple for anybody to get started. Literally before you go to bed, you just tell your unconscious mind what you're working on or what you want to learn or an idea that you want or maybe any blocks that you're having around money, and then you go to sleep. Wake up first thing in the morning and just write it down. When you first start in the morning, you want to write it down, but eventually you don't need to do any of that because you're going to remember all of it. And then you're going to remember the dream at night is the same as the dream during the day. So you can start to make requests from your unconscious mind during the day. Show me XYZ today. I'll be looking for these signs. And then your whole world opens up. You see animal totems, and something that didn't have any meaning before has complete meaning in your life and like turns you on a completely different path that you could never imagine if you weren't receptive. So these divine synchronicities, also known as glimmers, start to present themselves to you all the time. And I think that's truly what it means to be heaven on earth, right? Is to live in magic and create your own reality. I think a lot of our power has been taken away from us when we externalize Western medicine or a religion philosophy. Like, the power is actually within us. And I think it's about time that human beings start to recognize that. What do you guys think?
I think so too. I heard you talking about putting love and compassion into your stored memory. How does that relate to DreamWorks, or what is that?
Time is an illusion, right? I think the present moment is all there is. Now is all there is. So when we're in the 0-point field, which is now, we have access to all of our memories, and we could literally go into a memory and change the way that we perceive it. The reality, maybe it doesn't shift, but our perception changes it. So our reception changes what we're receiving from that stored memory of the reality. So if we present into that with love and compassion, and we see that from almost like a bird's eye view of watching an actor, you're the director of that experience. So in a meditation, or when you're in a slow brainwave state, like into theta, which is 30 minutes before we fall asleep at night or 30 minutes when we wake up in the morning, you can literally go in as if you're watching those stored memories and just see it with more love and compassion. And what you'll feel is the trauma response in the body being released, and it purges itself out of the body, because trauma is stored memory in the body, right? You've probably read the book, The Body Keeps Score, all of that. Like, that's real. What's even greater is 90% of the body's water. And water is one of the greatest storage devices, not only for energy, but also for memory. So if we can structure the water in a meaningful way to where we perceive it differently, then our reception shifts. And based on the reception changing, our reality shifts. Generational trauma, wounds from even different timelines start to shift and collapse. And you become more whole in who you are, more energetic, because the body is a human battery. So you're going to have more voltage when you start to do some of these.
So what you just said is our body's mostly water. So it's a conductor of energy. And so we can actually change the makeup of it?
Yeah, I believe so. I've seen it happen in my own life where I've had a back problem for like 4 months, and all of a sudden I do, a meditation or a prayer or something, and all of a sudden it just switches immediately. Instantaneous healing. And I've heard countless other stories of people healing things that they said they couldn't heal. And I think we're beyond powerful.
Dora and I explore this a lot too, and we too agree. And it's just sometimes we just get in our own way, right? Like, we believe it when things are going well in general, and then all of a sudden something happens and we're like, oh no, but we understand that that's really life, but maybe sometimes we just don't act the way we want to act. So that's pretty much the basis of how you kind of started your businesses. That's how you kind of go through life, is with this way of living.
It's a way of connecting back to what's real. And for me, what's real is, what is in the unseen. Because we pay attention to so much that's the five senses is giving us information all the time. But if we can just, for a second see past that, I think we have a lot more information coming to us with our first sense, or what some people call the sixth sense.
How do we take control of our minds?
Well, I think the number one thing is to stop worrying. We've all heard the quote, worrying is praying for something you don't want.
Right.
Or worrying is worshiping the problem. And I think 90% of people live in worry. So if you can get past worry, the Kabbalion texts tell us that the universe is mental. So if we're worrying all the time, we're pulling things to us that we don't want. So how do we get rid of worry? We have this practice that we talked about. And it may sound a little esoteric, going into the field, observing yourself as the director. Like, that's a little mental still. It's a mental thing. The biggest thing we can do in body is just to go into our heart. So once we're in our heart space, the electromagnetic field is like 30 times bigger than the brain. So to be in the heart means not to be in the past, and it means not to be in the future, just to be in the present moment. When in the present moment, we can start to plant or imprint unconscious commands to the unconscious body, which is connected to everything, everybody. Like literally when we say there's the idea of oneness, I think that's true when we connect energetically with all life, all living experience. And the only way to do that is to live in your heart. I think the real problem with the world right now is because so many people are in their heads. And when you're in your head, like I said, 90% of it's trash can. It's what you don't want to happen. So when you come into your heart, whether it's a practice you do every day for 5 minutes, 3 times a day, think about all the stuff that's happening for you, that's happening despite of everything that's going on in the world. Like, look at, you have food every day. You have a roof over your head. You have 2 legs. You know, you're walking through hell. Maybe you're grateful that you still have legs to walk through hell. Right? That's the difference between somebody who is allowing life to push them around and somebody who is orchestrating divine magic everywhere they go. So to truly get out of your mind and get into your heart, that's what I would say.
And then if you're living from your heart, like you said, just energetically, it's a whole different kind of energy that when you're in your heart, right? So you're exuding that out and you're attracting that.
Yeah, there's no resistance. There's no need to prove anything. You're just showing up. And you're showing up as an aspect of the force or the God particle, right? You're literally looking at and witnessing other human beings as Jesus in disguise. So when you see other people as God, then the whole universe starts to smile back at you, like the song. And I think that's the goal. It's hard to get there, and we're not always there, right?
But we can witness when we're not there, right?
And don't be hard on yourself, because it's trial and error. Figure out what's throwing you off and change it. Take action to change it. What are you worried about? You know, and maybe it's something that 95% of your worries, you can fix them. There's probably another 5% there's nothing you can do about. So just let it go. Put that in the God box.
Oh, I love the God box.
I love the God box. How much of the worry that we have is really that worry? If I'm worried about this, is it really that? Or is it something else? Or is that just too whatever and just stop worrying?
I think it's different for everybody. I do think there's a lot of body stuff people have going on. There's a lot of electromagnetic radiation that's entering the earth, new frequencies. Parasites feed off of metals. Metals are in our environment. Like there's the whole biological aspect of what's changing my attuning, the attunement, or the atonement, the at-one-ment with God. A lot of people have body issues, right? Because their organs are off, pH is off, stomach acid's off. Neurologically, your neurotransmitters aren't going to be firing away that you need them to feel love in every moment. Your gut-brain axis is off. Maybe there's glyphosate in some of the food that you're eating. You're not eating organic. So the biofilm in your gut and your eckermansia isn't performing where it needs to. So then there's the whole talk of biology, but we are biochemistry. We're also spiritual beings. So if we can start to change our biochemistry, the most powerful way to do that's with our thinking. Well, then we can make better decisions about what we're consuming anyway, because most people consume things not because they're hungry, but because they're stressed out. And we're stressed out about things that most of the time, like I said, 5% of what we ruminate over, we can't do anything about anyway. And those are the things that maybe we ruminate about the most. The other 95%, we just have to take action, and it's having the willpower to do that. Despite everything that's trying to dumb you down and make you a slave to the world that we live in. Let's face it, like they don't want really adaptable, evolved, powerful humans because it doesn't work for healthcare and it doesn't work for the system that's been created currently. And I think you and I and us together, we're recreating that.
Drew, as somebody who's gone through a lot of pain, and for people listening who are experiencing pain in their lives, how do you use the pain to grow?
You change the story about the pain. So how it showed up for you, right? We all have pain, every human. I started saying I was tortured and abused as a kid.
Is that true? Because that's how you started. That was your story, right?
Yeah. So that's my connection point to everybody else because we've all had that. Everybody's had pain. Maybe somebody's pain is worse than the other person's, right? But that's still a victim story. So what did we do with it? And then what's the story now? Me, as a kid, from 0 to 5, I was trained as a Navy SEAL. I literally was waterboarded. I had cigarettes put on my forehead if I couldn't tie my shoes fast enough. Like, this is horrific stuff that happened to the younger me. But the younger me doesn't exist in this moment. That's just a figment of my imagination. So that reality is no longer here. And the reality is, what have I done with that? I'm so grateful for the guy that brought me into this earth experience that gave me those lessons. Maybe he came to earth and his karma was to teach his oldest son forgiveness, which I have massive amounts of forgiveness for him. Even when I was 6 years old, I wrote a letter and I forgave him. And I prayed every night for him that his heart would be made whole and that he wouldn't, back then my belief was different, but he wouldn't live in an eternal state of hell or whatever, right? So that freed me. And my life has looked completely different ever since I let that go. And I had gratitude for it. I think letting go is just one thing. Letting go and forgiving is more of a selfish act. The selfless act is thanking. Like, hey, thank you. That was awesome. Like, I learned my lesson. I don't need to keep pulling people to my life like that.
So is that love?
I would say so. Letting people be who they are is one of the highest forms of love.
And you do that through living through your heart, because that's where it can be real, right?
I think so.
Think our way there, yeah. What you're also saying is nothing does stay the same, right? So if nothing's real anyhow, create something that supports you.
In every moment. What's going to support you the most? And even before you go into the moment, what's the intention for this segment is what I like to call it. So in the next 5 minutes, what do I want to experience on this podcast with Doro and Tricia, right? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Then take my mind out of my mind. And what do I want to leave the person with that's actually listening to this right now? What do I want them to feel in their body? And if I can start to generate that feeling, then we can start to have a real conversation. Because then the doors open up of what's possible. And I think as humans, light beings, like the hue of light, right, man, like we're all light, we start to recognize that in each other and we feel it through the heart.
So the goal is to live from the heart, but we can get triggered again and again. And how do we cope with those triggers?
Yeah, the triggers are a part of life. Like, you're not going to go through Earth School in the dense energy field that we're in and not be triggered. But I think it's what we do with it in the moment. It becomes less and less of a trigger until you observe it and you bounce higher.
It's almost like needs a new name then. As we kind of go through the triggers, it's like not triggers anymore. They're lessons. They're, oh, that's back again. Oh, I'm going to have another chance at that.
I like to call them blessings. It's a blessing and a lesson in
That's
one.
good.
Right?
That's
so
really
what's
good.
the blessing that we're going to get out of this? The more we sit on the trigger and the more triggered we are, the more we actually pull that experience to us again, because you didn't learn. If you're triggered, it means there's something still inside of you. And it means that you're going to get pinged over and over and over again until you're willing just to let it go. And if you can let it go, you bounce higher energetically. And I think that's one of the greatest secrets to life. If you get nothing else out of this podcast other than the next time you're triggered, release it, feel it in your heart, let it go. Maybe it takes 2 minutes to be triggered the first time and then a minute. Maybe you're the one person that's like, it takes you 2 days after a trigger. This is like Aikido. Like, you have to work on your ability to not be triggered and move through life triggerless. Because if you're triggered, you're taking yourself way too serious. And one of the greatest ideas of this reality is that this is just a game. This isn't real. As much as you and I think that this podcast is real and there's hundreds of thousands of downloads and we're competing over likes with all of our brothers and sisters, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all just not real. You're right.
It's all
just
bullshit.
that.
This is a movie. And when we can pull ourselves out of the movie as the director and not be the actor that's triggered, then you can start to control your reality in a much bigger way. And you get to make more of an impact in other people's lives that are still like, oh, this fucking movie, it's driving me nuts. All these triggers. It's not real. It is not real.
It's so true.
It is in our control that we really can decide how we want to live our lives. And it really is up to us. And that's kind of freeing in a way, right? Or it is freedom. And is that peace? Or is peace even part of this discussion?
I think the ultimate level of peace is to go through life and not be triggered and just love yourself more and more in every moment. How much more love can I give to Tricia and Doro and not be triggered? You know, even though we're aging and we're in this decaying 3D world where my body didn't operate the same way it did back then and all the stories we make up, none of it's real. And I think the more love and compassion we have for ourselves in those moments, I think the more we're able to create a life worth living.
And maybe, too, when you go back to oneness and the idea that we really are interconnected, that we are one, that love and compassion we have for ourselves is then the love and compassion we have for others. And I think that's what you said at the beginning. Like it just kind of goes, right? Because you are that.
And I think that's what a lot of mystics, and I think that was one of Jesus's main teachings when he was here, was, how much more love and compassion can you have for you so that you're not tempted to sin or to miss the mark, is what sinning meant. And it was this term used for archery. So we miss the mark every day as human beings because we're constantly in judgment. We are judgment-making machines. We're judging ourselves all day long. If we can go through life without judging, imagine how powerful you would be.
That would be good.
Even try to do it for a day with no judgments. Could you do it?
When I think of judgment, I think that that's like a measurement. But judgment could also be something like, oh, they look so beautiful. Oh, they're this and that. Is that a judgment that we're talking about, or are we only talking about negative judgments?
I think anything that pings your nervous system, because if you can allow your nervous system to be full of light and you have a judgment that's positive, well, then maybe that's giving you energy. It's like lighting you up. Like I love going on, I like to call them wow walks, where I walk outside for 10 to 15 minutes and I look at the simple strawberries that are growing in the greenhouse or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, it's awe. It's wow.
It's awe.
Putting the wow goggles on.
The wow goggles, right. And maybe keeping them on for as long as we possibly can.
I know people that live their life like this, and those are the people we want to be around. Think about that. Think about charisma. Think about magnetism. When somebody's in a good mood, positive attitude, those are the people you want around you all the time.
How does that, in your mind, tie to simplicity, like a simple life?
Well, I think when your cup is full and you're vibrating with so much love and so much energy all day long, you don't really require much. And I think we've been taught to be consumers, and especially in America, like consume, buy, because it supports the whole infrastructure of the ego. Because without this thing, I don't feel like I'm worthy, or I don't feel like I've had enough. Billion-dollar marketing budgets prey on people like that. But I think if your cup is full, then what do you need? You don't need anything else. You're whole and complete as it is. And the only thing that you're really here to do is to give to other people. And that the secret to living is giving.
One of the things I heard you talk about is imposter syndrome. I think I might have it. I don't know. But can you talk about it and how you break free from it?
Yeah, I see you, Doro, because I think we all have it on some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Feeling like the penny's about to drop or the shoe's about to drop, as the analogy goes, where it's like, wow, life has just been too easy for so long. Like, what's going on? Something's wrong. And we've been taught unconsciously to think that there's another side to our success. There's another side to what we've created in this reality. And that's the biggest lie. Life is meant to be easy. Life was never meant to be a struggle. So when we live in that way, like imposter syndrome just fades away. Instead of saying, hey, what's going to happen next on the other side of this from a fear standpoint, it's how much bigger and how much brighter can my light be so that I attract a bigger, brighter life, not just for myself, but every generation behind me. Like, what am I doing today to impact every single person I come in contact with? And maybe it's just one person. But the fastest way outside of imposter syndrome is helping somebody else, even just one person. Because if you're focused on you and your imposter thing, well, then you're taking yourself way too serious again.
What do you say about, that saying they always say is put the oxygen mask on first and then others? What do you think about that?
I think it's definitely like level one. Like you have to do stuff to take care of you, like eat, feed, like, maybe a massage. If you're single, buy yourself flowers. Like there's tools and things that you can do to feel better in your body for sure. I think the misconception of that is feeling like you're separate from other people. And I know biologically we are, but I get my oxygen by actually putting oxygen masks on every single person in the plane. How can I put my heart in that much coherence to where I'm just living in that place? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense. And again, it's a way to shift that story of like taking care of others, because that's, what we do is take care of yourself. It's all about taking care of yourself, self-care. As mothers, we don't take care of ourselves. So it's finding a balance, when you talk about that.
Yeah, 4 kids and grandchildren, it's probably so hard to even have time for you. I see it, we call her Gramita Larita. She's my bestie-in-law. She's my beloved wife's mom. And she just lives for other people. Like she does so much for other people. She gets massages and takes care of herself that way. But I feel like sometimes it can be draining and it can be overwhelming and it's tiring all the time to just be on the call for all your kids. She's got 3 daughters and now a granddaughter,
Granddaughter,
little baby. I think there is truth to doing that.
Yeah.
1000% and honor that. I would never want to take that away from somebody if that's
what they need to do.
What they need to do.
How do you describe boundaries in this world that we're talking about?
Boundaries are absolutely essential. Again, it goes back to, for me, segment intending. What do I want out of this segment? And there's non-negotiables that I have. I'm not going to hang around with takers and people that don't have my highest good in mind for certain situations. And what's funny is when you do have that much intention in your reality, you don't really draw people into your experience like that. And if you do, then they make themselves shown and then they're out like immediately. Nature has a funny way of revealing what's in the highest order, what's in the highest alignment. When you're intentional with your life, I definitely think non-negotiables and boundaries are a huge part of what we need to do. And I think few people actually honor their boundaries now. It's like this weird thing.
They talk a lot about it, but it just feels like it continues on,
Exactly.
You talk a lot about water and food and nutrition. How does changing what you eat, how does that change your life?
Just like food has a biological nutrition profile, it also has an etheric profile. So when we eat, not to just consume our macros, protein, carbs, fats, which we see every influencer on the internet talking about, the carnivore diet, the paleo diet, this diet, you should do this. There's a whole nother level to food that I want people to get, and that is the etheric nature of food. Every piece of meat, every piece of plant that we consume, there's energy to it. It's where did it come from? Whose hands were on this? How much love and care was put into this animal? And I think there's so many factory-raised farms with thousands of chickens that don't see the light of day, cows that don't get out on pastures. Like, it breaks my heart. I'm a farmer. Like, I have 80 chickens, I have alpaca and sheep, and I want to provide the best life for our animals possible. And I just know that 8 billion people on planet Earth is playing small. I think planet Earth can have 25 billion people, have more than enough food and animals. And, if we are going to eat it, let's do it in a loving way. Let's take care of these creatures and have a ceremony when it's time for them to transition into a different realm. And I don't think we're doing that enough now. I think the Native Americans probably had it right when it came to diet and eating, and that's a whole nother topic, of course. But that's what I align with, probably. Being intentional about what I'm eating, not overeating. I love superfoods, as you guys know.
Yeah.
Powerful foods. And I'm also into, I wouldn't call it anti-aging, but I would say having the most energy in the moment.
Yeah, we want to talk about that, having the most energy in the moment. And the other thing we really want you to explain is the Ayurvedic. Shilajit, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us why we love this. Okay, for the energy, it comes from a rock. But I was saying to Doro, my son, who's eating it, and he's like, I'm not really sure what it is again. And, he's looked it up and everything. So can you explain it and how it's so supportive?
It's a resin that is made over 8,000 years, and it's the microbial community of these rocks in the Himalayan mountains at a high elevation that purge minerals into this tar-like resin. It's one of the most mineral-dense foods on the planet. It helps with your mitochondrial activation, helps with strength and stamina. Don't take too much of it. It'll probably throw your sleep off because you won't need as much sleep. I've experienced that, and I've had other people write in. They're like, hey, I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've never done this. And it's like, your mitochondria is fired up. And we have a problem, especially in America and the Western world, of sluggish mitochondria because we're always just shoving more things in our mouth. We're not moving as much. We're not walking as much. We're taking things like Ozempic and Mounjaro and other pharmaceuticals when Mother Nature has the answers, right? If you just mineralize your body, there's 12 minerals if you decompose any body at the end of it. These are the cell salts of the human body. In Shilajit alone, there's 88 minerals. And there's also humic and fulvic acid. And humic and fulvic acid are great at detoxing, not just environmental toxins, but a lot of the new toxins that have entered our environment over the past 3 to 4 years that can cause neurological issues, gut-brain axis issues. So Shilajit's one of my favorite superfoods. It's a powerhouse.
And we're good taking just 2 gummies a day?
Well, it's 250 milligrams in 2 gummies, which is really hard to do. We're the only people that have figured this out to actually make it taste good. There is a little organic cane sugar. Now, you do need sugar or some substrate. You could use like a sugar alcohol. I'm a bigger fan of just using the natural sugar. Like, I'm old school, right? I'm from Michigan. So organic cane sugar, I don't think is that bad. I've worn a CGM and I've taken these, like a glucose monitor, and it doesn't affect my blood sugar at all. 2 gummies. I can take up to 6 depending on what I'm doing that day. If I need a little extra boost, maybe I'm running a marathon or something like that, and I just need more Shilajit. So I'll take more of that. I love that. The Shilajit gummy is so good. It's one of my favorite Organifi products for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Dora and I were thinking it might be one of your favorites. But how did it come to be? Did you just know about Shilajit and then strive to want to do this?
Well, I had a hard time taking the resin. I couldn't find a delivery mechanism that I actually enjoyed. And I think if I'm going to take something, I have to enjoy it. I'm not the guy to go to the gym with 15 different things written out, cross it off the list. I kind of have a little ADD, maybe ADHD. So I want to be inspired when I do something, and then I just let the magic of that take me. So with the gummies, it's I crave those because they taste so good. And I had a hard time even getting 250 milligrams of the resin because it tastes like the bottom of a shoe. So as soon as I started testing the gummies, I'm like, this is it. So many more people are going to enjoy this experience. And if we're not enjoying an experience, if we're just doing it because we're masochists or we just want to cram down this tar-like resin, which people do all the time. And there's these hardcore Shilajit people. I get it. I am not that person. I would rather pop 2 gummies, call it a day. I'm ready. I'm getting the benefits. Yeah, I feel good doing it.
What about Happy Drops? I love the name so much, I can't even tell you. And I want to take them just because of the name.
Have you tried them yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I only tried the Shilajit.
You guys.
All right, we're on it. We're on it. Happy Drops.
Oh my God. We got to get you Happy Drops.
Okay.
I'll send some out to you. They are absolutely redonkulous. So there's 30 milligrams of this clinically extracted resin oil from Spain, and it's a saffron oil, which, as you know, saffron's one of the most expensive spices on the planet. What you might not have known is that saffron is actually one of the most potent mood boosters in Ayurvedic science. Simple spice saffron. 30 milligrams of this stuff has been shown to be super powerful in the clinical trials. I was reading them, and I'm blown away at the people that were impacted by saffron. So we added gotu kola, we added ginger, and we added passion flower as well, 100 milligrams of passion flower. 4 of my favorite things. They taste like little ginger chews. They're absolutely amazing. They're kind of a lemony ginger flavor. And I'm getting hit up with dozens of messages every week from people saying, you know what? I just came off my depression medicine. Somebody close to me, actually in my family, messaged me this week. And they were like, hey, I want to let you know how good these are, buddy. And I love this person dearly, but they've kind of struggled with ups and downs of depression. And it just opened my heart when I read this text that came through. I'm like, this is why people need to try this. Stop relying on the cartel that's just wheeling and dealing when Mother Nature has the answers, I believe.
How long does it take you from conception to getting it out in market? How long does this happen? And how do you do it?
It depends on the product. We've really dialed it in lately. It could take anywhere from 6 months to probably 3 years, depending on what the product is. Depending on form, the innovation of the form, the ingredients, what organic farms we want to work with. It's a lot harder when you're organic glyphosate residue free.
Right.
Anybody and their brother can go get some manufactured lab-grown ingredient, throw it together. But when you're organic and you have the standard that Organifi does, it's harder.
Talk about sleep.
I would like to say sleep is one of my superpowers.
Please share.
Having a purpose in your life is number one. You're going to sleep like a baby when you know what you're doing and what you're on planet Earth for. So purpose is like the sleep bucket. Not eating a big meal before I go to bed has been key for me. So I stop eating big meals like around 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm in bed by 8, completely dark room. With a newborn baby, it's kind of tough because night light's on for mama so she can breastfeed and do all the things. But it still works. We're co-sleeping right now, so obviously that's an added component as well. I have what's called an Uller. I don't think they make them anymore, or this company's not selling them, but it keeps the mattress cooler. So 55 degrees, I like to sleep. Air conditioning's on even in the winter, just because sleeping in a colder room has been shown to improve sleep quality. Reading before bed, no blue lights. I have a little red light flashlight that I wear on my head. So reading by red light, sleeping in cold, I do take a little melatonin here and there. I'm not one of those guys that's like, don't take any melatonin. We do have an Organifi sleep product that actually works just as well as melatonin, even more effective because you get the GABA and the L-theanine and the passion flowers in that as well. I love It's probably one of our most underrated products is the Organifi sleep. It's awesome. Yeah, no added fillers, nothing like that. Tastes great. Tastes like iced tea.
And when you say purpose is the number one thing, I think also if you're on purpose, right? And this is, I think, what you were sharing with us earlier, the worry stuff, so many people worry at night, right? You wake up and your mind starts ruminating and going. But if you're on purpose and you've changed your stories, the worry kind of fades away, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, you go to bed smiling. But I think most people go to bed with barbed wire thinking of what they didn't do today, what they have to do tomorrow. And that keeps you in a loop of not being restful. But I think when you go to bed knowing that your purpose has been fulfilled, or you can go to bed even in appreciation of that one person that you helped in the grocery store that needed help or whatever it is, I think you're going to sleep a lot better.
What about exercise? We haven't talked about how important that is, or how does that fit into your thinking?
I do it first thing in the morning when I wake up. I'll do cardio. I'll run because I hate it. And I think when we do something we hate first thing, it forces us to have more willpower for the rest of the day. So do the hardest thing first, even if it's waking up at the butt crack of dawn, 5:30 in the morning, putting on a weighted vest, running outside, whatever it is, even walking. Walking is great for 95% of people. Just go outside, walk a couple miles, move. I try to get 10,000 steps in before lunch. We play a lot of pickleball, which we love. I also strength train. I lift weights like 5-6 days a week. That's like meditation for me as a man, lifting heavy stuff. I've always done it. It works well. Couple that with cardio, stretching, of course, because as we age, sometimes there's headaches and other things that can pop up if we're not stretching our body, our posture, right? We're leaning forward a lot. A lot of what I'm doing now is like to age better, I would say.
Aging better is really interesting to both Doro and I and many other people. For women's wellness, what do you have to say about that and the new studies that have come out, or are you into that, especially now with your little baby and your wife having just had a baby? What are your thoughts all about women's wellness?
Something that we've been working on for a while at Organifi with Harmony, our product for helping during periods and moon cycles, and then also premenopausal women. I've been looking at saffron as helping with postmenopausal, for mood, that kind of stuff. That's been super helpful. And what supplements we can do to support women more at Organifi, that's kind of been the focus. And because I have a baby girl, looking at kids' nutrition. We have Organifi Kids now, green juice, and a Protect Immunity. So we're really working on that. We're excited to come out with some kids gummies soon too.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, because little babies are very germy, and Tricia and I are constantly catching whatever they have, but it's worse for us. So that's good.
Also, they don't want to eat anything, so I think your gummies are going to be great. And the Organifi like green gummies will be awesome.
Yeah, that's the first one we're doing is the Easy Green gummies.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
When do they come out?
Hopefully in the next month.
Okay, great.
30 days. That's the goal.
So how do you do everything? You've just got so much going on in your life and you're open, so things just come in, right?
I don't know if I do it all. I don't ever hold myself to that expectation either. I actually have really low expectations for myself, I think. But because of that, it gives me freedom. So I'm not constantly beating myself up, judging Drew, judging his performance. I'm flowing with the world. I'm flowing with people helping. There's a lot of people supporting me, and I have so much gratitude for them that it frees me from feeling like I have to do it all, or that I have all these expectations placed on me. Because I think, again, when we take ourselves too serious, it just piles up, and it's all fake.
We really concur with that. Okay, so how did you meet your wife?
Yeah, no, I met her at a sound healing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cool. I had been in a few relationships that were longer. I did a bunch of healing work around trauma of past relationships. I used what's called the Rasha machine. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
But it's like this scalar frequency machine. I did like an hour meditation in it, which it drops you into a theta. And I saw all my relationships.
Oh, wow.
And I basically deleted all the things that were no longer serving me in this life. And then at the end of it, I prayed and I just felt God speak to me. And it was like, hey, you're ready to meet the one. So get ready. And then the next day I got invited to a sound healing. it was late. It was like so late. 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm in bed by 7:30 usually.
Right.
And it was an hour away. So I'm like, I'm not going to this thing. But then I felt like the bed shook. And it was like, you have to get up and go.
That's amazing.
And she was the first person I met at this sound healing. And I was like, this is my wife. And then for a week, every date we'd go on, random strangers would just come up to us and they're like, hey, how long have you guys been married for?
So you
Yeah, we even got asked. Second date, we got asked. They're like, hey, can you stand in for this wedding photo shoot we're doing on the beach?
Oh my God.
Like it was something out of like the Truman Show, you guys. Like crazy.
What's her story? Was she like, how did it work on her end? Were you a miracle to her? I mean, obviously.
Absolutely.
But,
Yeah,
okay.
she was dating, I think she was probably dating at least 2 or 3 other guys from LA because that's where she was from. And as soon as her mom met me, she's like, hey, because mom, I'm strategic. You know, you got to build a relationship with
smart.
mom.
You are
before
so
everything.
smart, Drew. You are
Yeah.
so
So
smart.
So mom's like, hey, you need to stop talking to all these other guys because Drew's your person. And mom's super intuitive. So she saw that. She picked that up. You know, we started dating and the rest is history. We haven't spent one day apart in like 3 years, which is
That's
wild.
great.
So
That
wild.
is so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
What else do you want to share with us?
I think we've given a lot of meat, a lot of juice to the people listening.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to go this way. I thought we were talking products.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that we did this.
Yeah, we talked about what's important. This is not selling anything. You know, we don't have to sell anything. We're just open to forming deeper connections with our community and the people that are out there listening to this. And I hope they got value.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Drew, thank you so much for being on Health Gig.
Yes,
Yeah.
Drew.
Thanks
Thanks
for
so
having me.
much.
Thank you for joining us on Health Gig. We loved having you with us. We hope you'll tune in again next week. In the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on healthgigpod.com. I'm Tricia.
And I'm Doro.
Be well.
Thanks again to Wild Health for helping to make this series possible by sharing valuable insights about personalized healthcare. Wild Health are pioneers in the field of precision medicine, a holistic and genetics-based approach to personalized care. Informed by biometrics, genomics, and lifestyle factors, Wild Health's team of board-certified providers customize health plans with individualized recommendations for diet, exercise, sleep, supplementation, mental health, disease risk reduction, and more. Sign up and get started today at wildhealth.com.